Hey Walter, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Obviously, a very busy time right now. We got WrestleMania weekend coming up next week. You're probably among the most busy superstars there are right now between your two title defenses on NXT UK and Takeover. Does it remind you of the old WrestleMania weekends, being a part of all these wrestling shows in just one weekend?
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's not the same. Like before, as an indie wrestler, like doing all the shows WrestleMania weekend, we would end up doing like 8 matches or 7 matches in like 3 or 4 days. So
Yeah,
it's a little bit more relaxed now. Uh,
yeah,
but obviously, it's very in WWE. It's very different as well.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. WrestleMania season is great to be a part of, and it's one of the most exciting times of the year, either for the fans and also for the wrestlers.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is going to be, shockingly enough, well, you've been with the company your third WrestleMania weekend, which is kind of hard to think about that you've been here for over 2 years now. How have you seen your growth? How has your journey been so far in WWE from when you joined NXT UK initially over 2.5 years ago to present day?
Yeah, it has been great so far. It's like when I started for WWE, like I kind of didn't know what's coming and how it will go down or something. But I think for a wrestler working for WWE, it's like as a football player, if you finally play for Bayern Munich or something like that,
Hmm.
that's what you can compare it to. We really have the best circumstances here to just really focus on our performances and focus on what we do in the ring. Before, as an independent wrestler, you're kind of in charge of everything you got to do. You have to take care of everything.
Hmm.
Your travel and hospitalization and stuff like that. You kind of have to manage that on your own and be in charge of that. And we getting taken great care of us. And now I can really solely focus on what I do in the ring and get the best out of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's been great seeing you in WWE, NXT UK for the last couple of years. And like I said, you got two title defenses coming up next week, which are both going to be great. But we only just recently saw you resurface on NXT after about a year away due to the current circumstances, obviously. What was that process like getting back to the States after over a year away being in the UK?
It's a little bit hard to kind of like really experience it if there's almost no audience
Hmm.
in the venue. There's a small amount of audience in the Capital Wrestling Center to enjoy the shows, but it's still very different from what it was before.
Yeah.
Overall, it's like I said, we were, especially as a group, Imperium, which just started to really get going,
Hmm.
and then we got interrupted by the pandemic. So it's great to be back and catch up on it again and go forward as a group and also for myself again.
Yeah, for sure. Was there ever a timetable on your comeback to NXT, or was it really just whenever the opportunity presented itself? Again, with the current circumstances, it's kind of hard to predict everything going on right now. But was there ever a timetable? Okay, I would like to be back in NXT in the States around WrestleMania time, or again, was it really just more of an opportunity presenting itself?
It's kind of like it was hard to tell when there's the chance to come back. I
Hmm.
mean, there's so many things you gotta work out for right now. I was I was busy doing. I was busy wrestling for NXT UK in England, but it's not that easy right now where you can just fly there for 2 days and then do your matches and go home again. Right
Hmm.
now, that comes with quarantining in England first for a week, but then when I come back to Germany, quarantine there for another week or 10 days. So every little trip we take right now just blocks off such a long period of time where we can't travel or even leave the house or
Yeah.
something like that. So it's really not easy to really figure that out. So I think, yeah, I'm glad to finally be back, but to really be able to go back and forth more frequently, we still have to wait a little bit longer until the world goes back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, hopefully not too much longer, but yeah, no, there's still plenty of work to be done, obviously. But obviously you came back to NXT just recently. How many people knew about your return ahead of time? Because Jordan Devlin's return was advertised. We knew about that. You showed up on the same show. It was a complete surprise. How many people knew about that ahead of time before your comeback to NXT?
I guess my friends knew, and the people in charge here knew, I guess. But besides from that, not many.
It was a pretty well-kept secret. Did you have to go through any hoops to keep that a secret, or was it really just, I mean, there's no one at the airports right now, I guess, just due to everything going on. So did you have to go through any hoops to keep that a surprise, or were you just surprised to see that no one really knew about it ahead of time? It wasn't spoiled at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for right now, like I said, when you travel on planes and stuff like that, it's not that many people on there. And also the first week here, before I showed up, I had to self-isolate or quarantine as well, so I was stuck in a hotel room for the time anyway, so I couldn't really. That is an upside from all of that.
Yeah. And no, this is perfect timing too, because like I said, you got the 2 title matches next week. First against Rampage Brown in NXT UK, and then Tommaso Ciampa on TakeOver Stand and Deliver. First with Ciampa, is he someone that you've had your eye on for a while, someone that you've wanted to wrestle for a while? Because it seems like for as long as both of you guys have been in wrestling, not just in WWE, but just the business as a whole, have you guys ever clashed one-on-one before? And even if not, is that a match that you've wanted for a while now?
No, this is the first time we're gonna actually compete in a match against each other, because Tommaso, before his WWE career, he was in Germany a lot, and but we never had the chance to wrestle each other. So I'm looking forward to it. I think he's a very intense and very physical wrestler, which really goes well along with what I do. So. And I'm looking forward, like every time, my favorite wrestling matches are when I know it's going to be a struggle and I know it's going to be intense and physical. And yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. So I think it's going to be exciting for everyone to follow along and watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a great clash of styles, too. How do you think that's going to differ from the match that you have that same week with Rampage Brown? Someone who's been undefeated since showing up in NXT UK, someone who's had a lot of buzz, before even showing up in WWE. How different is that match going to be for you going into WrestleMania weekend with Rampage Brown?
I think it's going to be different because they're both very different wrestlers. Like Rampage is heavier than Tommaso, so he's gonna be able to actually lift me without bigger issues and throw me around a little bit, I would say. While Tommaso is more of a brawler, I would think, and more striking based than Rampage is. So I think it's gonna be 2 very different matches, but they're gonna be exciting in their own fashion.
Yeah. This coming weekend is actually going to mark 2 years from when you won the NXT UK Championship, and you recently broke the record of Pete Dunne as the longest reigning NXT UK champion of all time. And when he had that record, no one ever thought that would be snapped. I mean, he held the championship for 2 years as well, but here you are 2 years later, still the NXT UK champion. When you hear a milestone like that, when you hear a stat like that you've been champion for 600 and something days, you've been champion for over 2 years now, does it resonate with you at all and thinking to yourself, okay, that's cool that I've held the championship for this long, one of the longest title reigns of all time in WWE, or is it really just like, okay, cool, on to the next thing type of thing?
I mean, I tend to be the guy that is like, okay, cool, do the next thing, but looking at it and stuff like that, it's obviously a cool achievement. And for me personally right now, being honest with myself, like the pandemic added his bit to that, because we had like half a year or like 6 months or whatever it was that I couldn't wrestle, or they were like NXT UK didn't do any shows. So that stretched it out a little bit as well. So maybe just for myself, I need to catch up on those 6 months and then maybe legitimize it for myself.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, but it's funny you say that, because, yeah, you guys missed like 6 months of time, but then you came back better than ever with one of the greatest matches of 2020, definitely one of the greatest matches in NXT UK history, with Ilja Dragunov last October. Can you talk about that match a little bit, because it was so great, even without an audience, and you mentioned that earlier, how different the atmosphere is without fans in the crowd right now. What was that match like for you? Did you know after it happened that it was one of the best matches in the history of the brand? And having an audience there, not having an audience there, how did that affect it for you?
I mean, you just mentioned it's like if it would come across good without a crowd, like even though there's no crowd, I think we benefited from that. I think it was an upside for us that there was because myself and also Ilja, we're both two very intense and physical wrestlers. So I think with no crowd noise interrupting the audio of what we do, more or less, I think it was, things were more visible for the audience. Like every time our bodies made contact or something, they could get the full audio of it, and I think that added to it. I think you see it a little bit similar to MMA right now. With MMA without an audience, you hear every little blow, and you go like, oh, that sounds like it hurt, or that sounds terrible. And I think that's something we benefited a lot from. So, and I think when a match is very physical and very draining, and it's a struggle for both competitors, I think that's what adds some sort of a natural drama to it. And I think that's what happened in that match, and that's why people enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it kind of forced an emphasis on storytelling, too, because it was such a long match. You guys are in there, and the action was great, too. But like you said, not having a crowd there allows you to hear, like, for you specifically, hearing the chops. Like, we heard that last week in NXT with Ciampa, with Ilja. You can hear the chops from a mile away. And even with the crowd, it's loud. But even without a crowd, it's even louder. So I think that was one of the best parts about that match. And just a total 180 from, like, the Tyler Bate match, which, again, was one of the best matches of 2019 for WWE. That had a crowd, and the crowd ate that one up. Would you regard that as one of your favorite matches that you've had as NXT UK champion, the one with Tyler Bate?
No, I think they're both equal because they're both different matches and different experiences. And I think there's a different, people would watch it and experience a different emotion watching it, like both of the matches. So I like to both have them equal on my when I look back. They're both milestones in my career in WWE, of course, and I'm gonna work as hard as I can to keep creating those special moments for the audience. So.
Yeah. And your title reign's been full of them, too, between the Ilja match, the Bate match that we just mentioned, even the Pete Dunne match where you won the championship almost exactly 2 years ago. Every title defense is special for a different reason. And I know you actually talked about this before, having those infrequent title defenses, like every couple of months, makes it feel more special. Is that what you kind of pride yourself on right now, being one of those more attraction wrestlers, not wrestling every single week, wrestling or putting your championship on the line every couple of months? Do you kind of pride yourself in being more of a featured attraction wrestler?
Oh yeah, I would say it like that. Everything, and I think that's cool. Like I like it. It's the first time I watched wrestling. My dad took me to the tournament in Vienna that was ran by Otto Manns, and how it was done there, they would go to different cities and they would have a tournament where they would have, depending on the city, maybe like 30, 40 or 50 days of wrestling in a row. And then at the end of that, there would be one big heavyweight title match. And that kept everybody involved in that special. And I like that approach, and I think it really fits NXT UK that they kind of keep it that way. It fits the European style. And I think, my opinion, that's the right way to do it. And I think a world champion or main champion of a brand shouldn't defend his title every week or every 2 weeks. I think to actually be the one that actually gets a chance for a title match, it needs to mean something. And I think that is done very well in NXT UK, and I really hope it's getting kept up like this.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's weird, too, because we don't really see you defend your championship often in a good way. But now we're getting 2 title matches. Like, I don't know if they're on the same day. I think, is your match with Ciampa, is that night 1, do you believe, on for Stand and Deliver, or is that night 2?
That is one. The one with Tommaso is on Stand and Deliver on the Wednesday, and then the one with Rampage will be on the Thursday.
Okay, yeah, that's on NXT UK Prelude. Okay, Prelude. Yeah, it's going to be 2 great matches. It's going to be an awesome week. You talked earlier about your decision to come to WWE 2 years ago. How have you seen the NXT UK brand grow in that time? Because Pete Dunne was one of those people that kind of got the brand up and going, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, among other people. But you've really taken that brand under your wing for the last 2 years now. How have you seen it grow? And obviously, pandemic aside, because that kind of shut stuff down for a while. How have you seen NXT grow over the last 2 years since you've been there?
So, yeah, I mean, before NXT UK, what we did was we would tour to different venues in England, all over the country, and then have the shows there. And with the pandemic, there was everybody, like, they were forced to change that up a little bit. So now we have the chance to hold our events at the BT Sports Studio in London, which is a proper great TV studio. And I think just the look of that studio was a big improvement for NXT UK, because it just looks fantastic. And I really hope that's also, when the world goes back to normal, that this studio is going to be our headquarters there, where we're gonna tape most of the NXT UK episodes. I think that already was a big upgrade. And then also I think NXT UK was able to get in a lot of great talent from all over Europe. Because when it first started, it was really, really focused on wrestlers from the United Kingdom. But like I said, somebody like Pete moved on, who was a centerpiece, and they managed to pick up so much great talent from Germany, from Spain. And I think that's what they do really well, to actually get the talent in and then show it off to a worldwide audience, so they can actually see and identify that there are great wrestlers in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, it's pretty much progressed, and I hope it's gonna stay like that, because European wrestling that's the wrestling I like the most, because it's such a melting point of wrestling styles from all over the world, and it's exciting to watch. So I'm looking forward to what the future is going to be for that brand.
Yeah, no, the roster just keeps growing. You keep replenishing the pot every time someone moves on to elsewhere. There's always someone there to kind of fill in that void, which is cool. Final few questions for you, Walter. I've spoken to Finn a couple of times, and every time I've spoken to him, he always mentions you and how he really, really, really wants to face you. We almost got that match about a year ago. Obviously, circumstances prevented that from happening. That's got to be a match that you still really want to have, right? You and Finn Balor, whether it be for the championship or not, that's got to happen at some point, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Like you said, we were about to get ready for it, and then the pandemic happened. So, and I think Finn Balor right now is the best version of himself that he has ever been, and he's a great champion. The way he carries himself and how also carries NXT on his back right now is fantastic. Every NXT title match feels like a straightforward competition, and that's what it should be. So, whenever it's possible, and whenever he's ready, I'm ready, and I'm looking forward to whenever that's going to happen. But for now, I try to focus on Tommaso Ciampa, which is the next task, and then we see in which circumstances it can happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And right now you're pulling double duty. You're on NXT UK, you're doing NXT. I know you've talked in the past about your desire to stay over in the UK and be stationed over there. Have your thoughts on that changed at all over the last couple of years in coming to NXT full-time, or will your home always be over in the UK, in your opinion?
I'm a wrestler, so I'm open to travel wherever I'm needed. But my base, I work in the UK, that's my base, but I still live in Germany. That's where my home is, and that's where I want to be. But I'm open to fly wherever I'm needed to wrestle. So it's part of the job.
For sure. And as far as opponents you still want to face, we've seen you face a variety of opponents so far in NXT, NXT UK. You know, people have brought up you and Brock Lesnar as a dream match for you to have at some point, or anyone else on the main roster. We saw you and Seth Rollins a couple of years ago. What were your thoughts on a potential match with a Brock or anyone else in WWE that you want to face at some point?
I mean, honestly, Brock Lesnar is, like, when he had his last run as the top guy of WWE, like, I was so impressed with Brock. He's fantastic. Like, he's a great wrestler. He's a fantastic athlete, and in general, you can, if you know what we do, and then you watch him wrestle, you understand that his mind for professional wrestling is fantastic. He might be one of the smartest wrestlers there are right now. And if that match could ever happen, then of course I would go for it. What a challenge! Like, would be great. In general, there's if I look at the main roster now, like Cesaro is always one of the matches I really wanted to have over my whole career. Then Daniel Bryan would be the other one that I would really wanted to do. It's one of the best wrestlers that ever stepped foot in the ring, I think, and it's still, at the moment, is still one of the best around. And yeah, those would be the matches I would be most excited for.
Oh, now I'm excited to see you and Cesaro and Bryan. Hopefully at some point we get to see those matches and they can come to NXT to make them happen. Or NXT UK, because I know Cesaro was over there for one night to face Ilja a couple of years ago. So maybe at some point down the road we can see it. But before then, you got Ciampa next week. You got Rampage Brown, both for the NXT UK Championship. Both matches are going to be awesome. Walter, thanks so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.